Hello students, good morning all of you. Today I Rabindra Mohan Mishra from Sri Jagdamba Sanskrit College Vatho am taking the class of Shastri first. We have discussed many topics, critical appreciation of different poems. Now today we read critical appreciation of poem. A little learning is a dangerous thing. The thought-provoking poem A Little Learning is a Dangerous Thing is composed by Alexander Pope. This poem is famously writes in his poem an essay on criticism. Pope was one of the most popular and influential writers of his time. He was writing during what we now call the Enlightenment era, which lasted from about 1660 to around 1800. Enlightenment thinkers emphasized the importance of science and reason and claimed that the world is knowable and testable. It was during the Enlightenment that modern science and many of the assumptions that govern our contemporary system of reason were developed. This poem is one of the most quoted in the English language and one that offers tremendous insight into Pope's beliefs and into the culture in which Pope was writing. The poem A Little Learning is a Dangerous Thing is extracted from Pope's essay on criticism, which is broken into three different parts. The first part opens by describing the ways literary writer can actually cause harm. Pope argues that writers must be both careful and humble when critiquing a piece of literature, for the writing of bad criticism actually hurts poetry more than the writing of bad poetry does. Pope points out that each writer has his or her own opinion, and if applied incorrectly, a writer can actually ensure a censure a talented writer. However, Pope argues that if a writer is honest, does not fall prey to envy, and listen to the sheets of understanding that are naturally a part of him or herself, one can become a wise critic by this opinion. The Greek came to understand poetry through following the rules of nature, argues Pope, and commentary critics must do the same. In the second stanza of the poem, second part of the poem, Pope describes some of the ways that writers develop bad judgment, the chief of which is pride. The key to avoiding this is to know our own faults and limitations. Moreover, writers must study well and focus on conventions passed down from the masters of poetry. Pope warns, however, that writers must be careful of becoming slave to the rules and conventions that others had developed and to not Let the popularity of an author misguide a writer's appreciation of an author's work. One of the products of adhering too closely to convention is that writers become fascinated with extremes and forget the essential truth that beauty and good poetry are made up of the combination of all of their parts rather than each part by itself. In the third part of the poem, Pope offers some wisdom that writers should follow. Once again, Pope emphasizes the importance of humility and studying deeply, particularly studying those poets and writers who truly understand poetry and follow nature. Pope then reflects on the ups and downs of literature and literary critics since Greek culture, explaining how the understanding produced by the Greek and Roman was lost and is only beginning to be appreciated again. A little learning is a dangerous thing is written in heroic couplets, which consist of two rhyming lines that are written in iambic pentameter. Lines written in iambic pentameter consist of five iambs, which are metrical feet that have two syllables, one unstraight syllable followed by one straight syllable, as in belong or along. Heroic couplets are typically used when writers traditional and idealistic poetry, a quality that reiterates the serious tone of Pope's poem. Pope saw the poem less as an original composition and more as a collection of the insights of other writers. His goal was to combine the wisdom of others to help produce a sort of definite guideline from which critics could learn. The extreme simplicity of language is a peculiar attractive. The meter, note, and cadence is perfect. The tone of patience and humility has perfectly mingled with that of great dignity. The poem is a human document, a revelation of the struggle for good knowledge. It manipulates with a note of regret. There is also a mood of doubt, which, however, melts in the final attitude of complete satisfaction. The beauty and exaltation of feeling raises the poem to a great height. The poem is full of allusion to human wisdom. The poem gives us a glimpse of Pope's philosophy of life. The poem is replete with abundant pathos. It reflects the personal grief and despair of a poet of Pope's eminence. The poet was known to possess a noble and lofty character, and his conduct was akin to his nature and temperament. He, therefore, does not lose heart or weep like an ordinary man does. He endures all things with fortitude and bears the loss of good knowledge of other poets in a courageous and manly way, like the outstanding characteristic of all great and good poetry. This poem has a universal appeal, far from being a mere occasional poem only. The poem is rich in noble ideas, sublime thought, and abundant bliss. It raises Pope very high in public estimation. In short, we conclude that this poem teaches us that knowledge is power. Again, it reminds us that we human beings are the bond for a good and complete knowledge. Thanks.